Hi, I'm Sarah Loyer, Associate Curator at The Broad, and today I'm going to talk about artworks by Cindy Sherman. Sherman is an artist who, for over 4 decades, has made artwork by photographing herself and usually working alone. You might be thinking, how many ways can you possibly photograph yourself? That's part of what's so brilliant about Cindy Sherman's work. She isn't making self-portraits because she isn't the subject of her artwork. Instead, she uses makeup and backgrounds and props and costumes to become a never-ending cast of characters, shining light on how identity is formed and how assumptions and stereotypes affect both how we see others and how we see ourselves. In 1977, at the age of 23, Sherman started the Untitled Film Stills, a series that she worked on for 3 years that became one of the most influential bodies of work of the 20th century. These black and white photographs are inspired by art house films of the 1950s and 60s and depict archetypes of femininity, stereotypes of women that continue to play out in movies and in our lives today. These works raise questions about the complexity of how our identity is formed and who has the power to create it or shape it. Through the early to mid-1980s, Sherman made works that continued to challenge assumptions about gender, beauty, and status, with series that satirized the conventions of fashion photography as well as the centerfold format, exposing the fabrication of femininity and the costumes that build up these facades. Then, in the mid-1980s, she started making a series of works that are often referred to as the disasters, works that explore the macabre, abject, and grotesque. After about a decade of work that centers Sherman's body, in the disasters, the body almost entirely disappears, either replaced by prosthesis or obscured under the surface. In these works, Sherman used deep, saturated jewel tone colors to create photographs that are both visually enthralling and at the same time repulsive. She made these works in New York in the mid to late 1980s, at a time when there was increased national censorship in the arts and at the height of the AIDS crisis. The gore that is depicted in these works is shocking, yet clearly fake. By nearly erasing the figure, Sherman addresses mortality and the physical decay and plays on our primal fears while also using humor. In Untitled number 168 from 1987, a skirt suit and blouse are present, as well as fashion accessories, from a pearl necklace and a wedding ring to an eyeshadow palette and lipstick. But the body is completely absent, with dust where it should be. Wires and computer equipment surround the absent figure on the floor in this office scene gone awry. This artwork reminds me of the comedy horror film Sherman co-wrote and directed a decade later in 1997 called Office Killer, which was about a copy editor played by Carol Kane who suffers from a mental break after years of disrespect at her job. It's full of campy gore in the best way. Another work from this period, Untitled number 167 from 1986, looks like a crime scene. Dirt and debris making up the majority of the image. On the right is an open compact mirror reflecting eyes looking out at us. Body parts are poking through the dirt, such as a nose and a mouth in the center, an ear to the left, fingers on both left and right, teeth at the bottom, and eyeballs at the top left. The eyeballs and the teeth especially stand out to me as blatantly fake. During this same period, Sherman made her famous history portrait works, many of which use prosthetics in a similarly exaggerated way. For example, in Untitled number 193 from 1989, which Sherman has described as depicting an older Madame de Pompadour, the figure has a humorously large foot poking out from under her dress at the bottom right. And in Untitled number 264 from 1992, Sherman uses prostheses purchased from medical supply catalogs, typically used for education purposes, composing a figure posed like a full frontal pornographic image, complete with bondage mask and tiara, and body parts awkwardly arranged. In these works, we can see how Sherman explores themes from artificiality, narrative, and the abject, to gender, sexuality, and age.